Now, we've just spoke to the PDC chief exec about the big news that dropped after we recorded last week. Let's talk about it ourselves. 40 teams, a group stage to start, and pairs only. Some big changes coming to the PDC World Cup of Darts this year. What did you make of the changes?
Well, I mean, I can't complain. This is almost exactly what I have been asking for. And I know a lot of other people have been asking for some time. I thought that the World Cup, I mean, obviously, to begin with, it is a unique event because you're representing your country, not yourself. It's the one event where that's the case, although some of the Euro Tour and World Championship crowds would have you believe maybe you are always representing your country, even when it's not the World Cup. But it's not supposed to be that way. This is supposed to be that one time where you represent your country. It's the one time we see Michael Van Gerwen not wearing green. It's been the one time we've seen Dave Chisnell not wear yellow, except in that one photo that Dan Dawson loves to share on Twitter of him. Well, anyway, I'm sure everyone's seen that photo. But it's the one time we get to see them on stage wearing something other than the normal shirt because they're wearing the shirt of their country. So it does have its unique flavor. And it's also that one event where you can win and not hit the winning double because you have your partner who might win his tie, or even if it's in a doubles decider, be the one to hit it. So there is a unique aspect to begin with. But in the end, most of the matches after the first round have been just shorter versions of any other match. Best out of 7, 501 singles, see what happens. And that took away some of the uniqueness from it. And it took away some of that element of it being a team event. And the move now to every match being pairs, I think, gives it that unique flavor in the way that it's supposed to have that unique flavor. It really makes it that every single leg is now a team event. And yes, when you're not throwing, when it's your partner's turn to throw, you can sit back and wait. But it's still a team game at all times. If you're on 136, but you missed the first treble and you hit the second treble, you have to think about who your partner is. Are you going to go single 16 or are you going to hit a single 20 to leave double 18? You're thinking not just about what you want to do to put yourself in position to win, but also what your partner needs so that he or she will have the best opportunity to come out and win the leg on the next turn. So it does add a different dynamic, and having it be entirely pairs, I think, is the right call, and one that I know a lot of other people have been requesting for some time. But also expanding the field, I think, is a good thing because it brings more countries into the fray, and it allows us to see, well, one, the return of France for the first time in nearly a decade, which makes sense now that they have a tour card holder, but also more opportunities to make sure that every country that is giving the PDC, has someone giving the PDC a go, can be represented. I wish there had been another spot or two for Asia, and maybe this is something to come in the future with a qualifier. I wish there was another spot or two for Latin America. Right now, it's just one spot for Latin America to be determined by a qualifier to see which country comes through, as opposed to just Brazil getting the spot as it has been for the past few years. There is no qualifier for now for Asia, but as you just heard from Matt Porter, he did hint that there might be more qualifiers in the future. We'll see how having a qualifier this year goes, and we'll see what countries show interest in the future. I like that Bahrain's been given a chance in this, as obviously Bahrain is trying to get more events. It's not just in the PDC, but they've had WDF events recently as well. So a country that, at least at some levels, trying to put some commitment, and Iceland, obviously, for a long time for a commitment, is now paying off with a spot in the World Cup. I can't really complain at all. I think this was the right call. There is ways still to improve it further. Having a qualification system is one of those ways, but step by step. And I think in a few years, we will see that. Obviously, there will still be countries that are thrown in to begin with, but maybe there'll be 4 or 6 spots in the near future, or 8 spots that you have to earn through a qualifier. And I think that is the next step to take to really make this event a true World Cup.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And you've just got to look at the reaction on social media from darts fans. I think universally it was a very popular announcement and something that, like yourself, like me, like many people have called for a long time. the now old World Cup format has been in place since 2014, so almost 10 years, and it was pairs matches from the second round onwards. Sometimes they were hard to find, weren't they? It always felt strange to me that you'd start a tournament with all those pairs matches, the first round, 16 games, all pairs, and then you'd go sometimes whole sessions or whole rounds with no pairs games as the format changed to the 2 singles games, and if they were split then you would have a pairs decider. And like you mentioned there, one of the big draws of the World Cup was seeing the pairs and the format and everything that format brought, because we don't see that anywhere else in the PDC, and even in the WDF there's pairs events that go alongside the singles events on the weekends, but you've got to go looking for them on the streams. The WDF, they don't have a World Masters pairs or a World Championship pairs, which I think would be a great idea to do. But for TV darts, the pairs, it's only coming from the PDC World Cup. And if you were tuning in past the first round into that second round, you were not guaranteed to see pairs matches. So yeah, I'm pleased with the changes. As you say, we've just heard from Matt Porter. Burton, you asked him about the changes, and he said before, the PDC, they're not an organisation that's going to sit still and dig their heels in and stick with the format forever. You've only got to look at the Premier League and how that's changed over the last 20 years. The World Cup, that's exactly the same. We've seen in the early years the format changed quite a lot before sticking with the format in 2014 for a long time. But switching to the pairs only, increasing the number of teams from 32 to 40, giving the teams outside the 4 seeds, the lower ranked nations, guaranteeing them 2 games in the group stage, that more stage time, more exposure, I think can only be a good thing. And one thing I found interesting from your chat with Matt, and you just touched on it as well, was the qualifiers, because we've got this year that Latin America qualifier, and he said one thing the PDC are looking at is seeing how that qualifier plays out and potentially putting on more qualifiers so that the World Cup does become more of a global event and it is open to more countries to try and qualify. Because one of our listener questions came from a listener in Turkey, and they wanted to know, how does Turkey get into the World Cup? Well, we could see down the line a qualifier held in that part of the world for players from Turkey to get involved and try and qualify. So I think having the event look less of a closed shop is going to be another good thing in the long run. And I think it's probably been lost under the initial excitement of the change to pairs only as well, is the fact that we have got that qualifier and we could see more of them in the future. But the World Cup, yeah, it was already one of my favourite events on the PDC calendar. That had been tested a little bit by the format, but I think these changes are going to make it more popular among darts fans this year. And just lastly as well, touching on the format, of course, pairs only, that does mean we are going to see longer format games. And I think when we get to the last day and the semi-finals and the final, that long format pairs between, you'd probably say that the top nations, England, Wales, Netherlands, Scotland, teams like that, seeing 4 players up on stage and how a game can change in that pairs format over a longer format, I think is going to be something to really be excited about as well.